First thing you want to do is you want to begin peeling your potatoes. You also want to have someone start on the soup itself as well. So go ahead and get these potatoes peeled, and then we're going to show you various cuts in which you can do for your potato soup. Your potatoes, make sure you have a bowl with a little water. We're going to show you some various cuts in which you're going to do. Okay, the first cut, and again we're going to go small to medium dice for these potatoes, because if you go any larger, then there's that possibility that the potatoes will not cook and you could burn your soup. Okay, this is called Pont Neuf. So what I'm doing is I'm squaring it off on all four sides, and then with these little pieces here you can do little practice cuts with these. Okay, small dice, julienne, which is what I'm going to show you, and you can also put these in your soup and puree them. And then these is what this potato here is what you're going to get your cuts from. So we're going to do a medium dice. So again, we're flattening it just like this. Then we're going to turn it around, and we're going to give it 3 cuts, and then we're going to get these nice even cuts, as you can see here. And that's what we're looking for. These are the cuts you'll be doing for your practical next semester, and I just showed you how to do it. So this is a medium dice, 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. I'll show you the next one. These again, you can do some practice cuts. So Pont Neuf, square it off. You guys will have much larger potatoes than these. We're still going to use these potatoes. I'll cut this one in half. And there you go. Potatoes, all medium dice in, and you'll keep that in water. And again, while you're doing these potatoes, you guys can start doing your other ingredients. Okay, the next cut is how to dice an onion. So when you're dicing an onion, you want to make sure you keep the core intact. So I'm going to take a little piece off the core. As you can see, I still have it intact, as you can see here, and then you'll take off the other end, remove the first layer, the first 1 or 2 layers of the skin. Okay, now what you're going to do, as you can see here, that is the core right there. You want to keep that intact. So you're going to cut the opposite end, and you don't want it, you go about 3/4 of the way. So you're going to go 3/4 of the way. You're not going all the way with your knife. Just go 3/4 like that. And we're going roughly about a 1/2 inch dice. As you can see, I'm not going all the way. What the core does is it keeps the onion intact. Okay, now at this point you could either start slicing this way, or you can make another slice across, and that just kind of gives you a better even cut. So I'll show you that. Across, and again we're not going all the way, we're going about 3/4 of the way, and then this core keeps the onion intact. Then you're going to go across, just like this. This is what I'm looking for when you're dicing your onion. And you get a nice good dice out of your onion here, as you can see. Once you get to the end, then you can remove the core, and I continue to cut all the way to the end, remove the core, and then finish it off. And you have a diced onion. Okay, with some of the ends here, you can do what we call pommes frites. Okay, so if you guys want to fry these, you're going to cut them into what we call julienne cut, and that's another cut. So what you'll do is you'll square it off, and it should be an 1/8 inch by 1.5 inches. 1.5 to 2 inches here, an 1/8 inch in thickness. And then we're just going to go just like this. This is a julienne cut. Okay, if you decide you're not going to make fried potatoes, just add them into your potato. Okay, just go ahead and do that. And then I would do what we call a brunoise, which is an 1/8 inch, like this, and then add them in, and then they will just disintegrate into the water. So, and then I'll show you, I'll reserve some and I'll show you what for a garnish. This could be used for a garnish. So again, square it off the edges, 1.5 to 2 inches in length, an 1/8 inch, just like this, 1/8 inch cut, and you have julienne. We're going to reserve some of these in water so we can do a garnish. That's a julienne cut. And then anything left over goes into the water. And so this way you guys can practice any cuts you need to practice. Okay, so this is what your julienne, your julienne cut should look like if you choose to do these. And then you're going to place them in water. That's going to be important so that it releases all that starch out of there, and then just let it sit. When you're ready to fry them, then dry them up really good. You don't want any water going into the fryer oil, it'll pop on you. So again, just go ahead and leave them in water, and then we'll give you that option if you want to fry them to use them as a garnish. Okay, we also have our bacon. We have 5 strips of bacon here. Now what I've done is I've already done all my veggie, my potato, and this way I'm able to actually use the same cutting board. In your case, you probably want to do this first, your bacon, wash your board, or use another board. Somebody can be doing this first. You have 2 boards at your station. So have someone doing this so you can start your soup, okay? So what you're going to do when you do bacon, preferably if you put it in the freezer, it actually cools really nice and it gets nice and firm, and it's much easier to cut. Okay, this one has been in the refrigerator, but it works better if you put it in the freezer. What you want to do is you want to kind of roll it, and again, you don't have to do all 5 slices here. You can do 2 at a time, which I think I will do. 2 or 3 at a time. Roll it up, and then this will make it easier for you to work with it. So I'm cutting it, and at this bacon you cut it any size you want, large or small. So we're just going to go ahead and cut this up here. And then I'll do the next 3, or I'll actually cut this in half. And then you have your bacon. Okay, so after about 5 minutes or so, you see we have this bacon here. Remove it, it's nice and crispy. You don't want it to burn. And this is about where you want it. I'm going to go ahead and again, we're reserving the fat. Take it off the stove. And this is what you're looking for on your bacon. Now we're going to bring up the flame a little bit. Add your onions. And we're going to sweat them until they're softened or translucent. Okay, once you got them translucent and sweated, as you can see, they're kind of moist, they're cooked, you're going to add your flour. And then we have our roux. Then you're going to add your water. Now I happen to have chicken stock, so chicken stock would be best. You're going to use a little water and chicken base. So we'll add that in. Remember, in order for this to start to thicken, it must come to a simmer. Okay, so if we need to raise the heat up a little, we're going to raise it up a little here. You could, if it's a little thick, use some of your potato water that you have your potatoes sitting in. So you just want to make sure you scrape the sides, and here's the point where you have to watch closely because you don't want it to scorch. But as it starts to simmer, as you can see, it's starting to thicken up. And be very careful. Use this rubber spatula to get the edges, because that's where it tends to burn. It'll burn at the edges. Once you start to see it thicken up a little bit, then you're going to add your milk and your potatoes. Okay. Again, reserve your water, your potato water, if you need to add more if it gets too thick. It shouldn't be too thick. If it does, then there's that possibility your potatoes aren't going to cook. So I got the potatoes here with that reserved water. We're going to add them in using a spider or a slotted spoon. Now at this point we want to make sure we cook them through, these potatoes. We'll just go ahead and let this simmer until the potatoes are cooked. You got to constantly watch over this. Okay, and then at some point you're going to lower your temp. Let it come up to a simmer while you're stirring, because it's going to be bottom heavy. As it thickens, there's that possibility it could scorch on you. Okay, once you got it down to a low simmer, as you can see, it's starting to simmer slightly. Lower your temperature. Well, that's going. Make sure someone constantly stirs as you go. Give it a couple of stirs. Let it kind of stay at a simmer, and then stir again. So we want it just like this, as you can see, slightly, and then just stir as you go. While that's happening, you guys can start getting all your condiments. Okay, you've already got your bacon. You already got your bacon. You're going to get your green onion, and if you're going to do your potatoes, we'll get those fried up. Okay, for your green onion, just go ahead and get that diced. Take off the ends. Make sure you wash them. And what I like to do is I'll cut them in half, and then just practice your cuts. Very important that we cut through. As you can see, they're all falling apart. You want to make sure you get through there. So basically this part of the knife is your sweet spot. Okay, you don't really want to go in the back. You want to get right where it kind of gives you that nice little roll. And then just keep going. Nice and thin. And you have that for your garnish. Then we'll have some cheese and the bacon and the sour cream. And then we'll do a nice plate presentation. Okay, so after these have been sitting in a while, you want to go ahead and take out the water, and then we're going to dry them. Very important that you dry them if you're going to fry them. Otherwise they're going to pop on you. So you've got to dry them thoroughly. Get some paper towels. Use some of the paper towels that you use to wash your hands. As you can see, these are what we're looking for as far as a julienne cut. As you can see, they're all consistent. We're going to get some oil. We're going to fry them up. We'll place them back in here with a little lined towel. You guys will use your metal bowl. Very important though, you get all moisture out of it. Now by putting it in the water, you're releasing the starch. And so if you're going to do good French fries, what you have to do typically is to fry them twice. In this case, we can just fry them once because they're small. But if we're doing a larger cut, you fry them twice. You put them in water, and then you release all the starch. This way they don't stick together. And then you get your potatoes and you fry them up. And then you can kind of keep them nice and okay, crispy. So once you got it at the right temp, add your potatoes in there. And all we're going to do is just get a nice little crispy brown. Kind of stir them up a little. I've got my spider, I've got my little bowl lined with a towel to absorb some of the fat. You can also hit it with salt. I wouldn't do it. You got it in soup anyway. So all we're doing here is getting them nice and crispy and brown. We're at the right temp. And to check for that, you just throw a little flour, and if you see it starts to kind of separate, then you know that it's hot. Okay, so our potatoes are actually perfectly brown. You want to usually pull them out a little bit early, but they're nice and crispy. Put them in your lined sheet here. Make sure you get all of them. We'll show you what they look like. Here's a close-up of them. Nice and crispy. Potato soup is done, as you can see. Now you want to make sure you check them. Check your potatoes. At this point now, you can see the nice consistency of this soup. Now you want to season it with your salt and pepper. If you want to add your chicken base as well, add your chicken base. So I'm going to add a little salt, black pepper. And then again, you want to taste. Now you can take this to different limit. You can do all kinds of other stuff to this. If I wanted to add green chilies to this, I can add green chilies. Instead of cheddar cheese, I can add jalapeno jack or jack cheese. Again, if we want to do a toasted corn, we can do that. So most of your chowders also are made just like this. So clam chowder. Instead of adding, of course you just add clams to this, maybe not as much potatoes. You can do corn chowder. You have various soups that you can do. You can do all your base soups like broccoli using this same method. And it looks like we're right on. So now we're ready for presentation. And we'll show you how to do a nice presentation for this soup. Okay, so if you want to do a nice plate presentation, we do have bowls. You're going to go ahead and get your soup, and I'm going to go ahead and put that next. As you can see, we have the soup here. You always want to clean your bowl and don't fill it up too high. Then wet the tip of it. Just like that. Always look into the light. Okay, then first thing you would probably put is your cheese, since that's going to melt. Now the reason why you want to do this is if I was to put the bacon in here, then it just kind of sits, okay, and then it gets mushy. So by putting the bacon on the top, you kind of work the bacon in so you get a nice crispy bite each time. So we got our cheese. Then you're going to go with your bacon. Now how you do your bacon is up to you. You can spread it out to the side here. And then a little more bacon. And then a little green onion. Just like that. And then you should top it with your crispy potatoes, like so, and just give it a little dollop, just like that. Dollop on each side of your potato. And there you go, potato soup from ordinary to extraordinary.